to another episode of Sleep and Relax ASMR. This episode, just a good old classic random ramble by yours truly. Off script, no script, a cappella, off the cuff, whatever you want to say about it. If you've listened to the podcast over the past few months, a couple of years, then you've heard me say this many times over, but these are always my favorite to record. I just find that it's fun to, kind of just discuss whatever's on my mind, whatever comes into my mind while I'm here recording and, talking to you. Sometimes it's my dreams, which I had a very interesting set of dreams yesterday, which we'll get into. Other times it's just random observations, kind of what's happening in my life, work, friends, hobbies, interests, whatever the case may be. It's never particularly coherent, but, the whole point is just me talking to you, helping you relax, unwind, fall asleep, whatever it is you need. I'm hoping that this episode and the podcast as a whole can sort of, lend over to you, give to you, provide for you. So, obviously mentioned random set of dreams yesterday. Last night I had one of those, how should I describe? Like, when you have a dream, or, over the course of while you're sleeping, sometimes you'll have seemingly 4, 5, 6 dreams kind of stacked all in one, like over the course of a night, where you kind of like bounce from place to place. It's kind of what I had last night. I didn't write down notes. I've done a couple episodes where I discuss my dreams in some detail, if I think it's interesting or rather boring, actually. So that, it is a sleep podcast after all. So, last night it started, the first dream, I was sort of like transported back to high school. Now what's weird is I've had a similar dream to this, except from what I can recall in my past dreams, it was like I kind of went back in age. So as far as I could tell, I was like 15, 16, 17 again. And almost never it's been, it's usually not anything noteworthy. It's like I'm in class, playing sports, hanging out with friends, and I think the only reason why I know the general age range is because my friends, they're kind of like transported, let's say, to that age range. So I'm assuming that I myself am not my current age and then hanging out with my friends when they were 16. Yesterday's dream, as far as I can tell, I'm basically my current age, which, it's not like I'm in my 40s or anything, but, certainly not high school age anymore. And it was almost like a basketball tournament. It sounds very silly, so I'm having a hard time not laughing too much, but it was like a high school reunion, but a basketball tournament. And so it was me, and my teammates from, what I think was probably like my junior year. It's probably like my junior year, just based on the guys that were there. But we're our current age now, out of shape, bald, thinning hair, arthritis already, who knows, you name it. And we were playing, as far as I could tell, against our arch rival in basketball. And so the dream kind of sets up where from the beginning I'm like placed on our home court, and we're doing warm-ups. We're doing the layup lines, we're doing some stretches, and the people in the stands. And so from what I can remember, it was basically like our, we used to participate in regional tournaments, of course, tournament, I used to say tournament. Then someone kind of shamed me for saying tournament, so now I try to say tournament. But I think naturally I say tournament. What is the right way? Is it tournament or tournament? But either way, it's basketball tournament or tournament. Transported, we're doing layup lines, getting ready for the game, and again, it's I'm not going to say the majority, but certainly a good chunk of the guys I played basketball with in high school. If I'm not still good friends with them, I'm sort of like aware of what they're up to in life, through social media, of course. Like I follow just about all of them, if not all of them. So I know what they look like today, and so it was funny for us to be at our current age and sort of like preparing for a tournament as if we tournament, preparing for this game. Let's just call it this game because it's just the point of the dream. So we're very seriously preparing for this game, this big matchup. The stands are full, our high school gym, and no one says it, but in my head during the dream, I associate that, this is the first game of our regional tournament. So what's kind of interesting is I don't recall seeing like a banner or having a conversation in my dream that led me to that observation or that, idea or that conclusion, I should say, that it was the regional. It was just sort of, I kind of remember like almost like a lucid moment within my dream where, I got the ball, I'm going up for a layup just to, again, warm up. And then in mind, I'm thinking, wow, how amazing that we get to participate in these regionals now. How fun, really. So maybe that was part of the dream, or the point of the dream is, given my age, I would love to, which I would love to play in a serious match like that or game like that, with some stakes. Because who doesn't, right? It's fun. You kind of get nervous before the games and whatever, but, certainly I look back with tremendous fondness of that. So, unfortunately, the dream sort of ended there. So, it was, as far as I can remember, we didn't actually get to play in the dream. We were just warming up and, boom, all of a sudden, it's kind of like you're just transported. The next one, oddly enough, was another sports-related dream, which is very atypical. I don't necessarily have sports-related dreams very frequently, but in this case, again, it was kind of like teleported. And this one I was playing for my favorite club in soccer, a team that I support, that I, root for, let's say. But it was very frustrating because during the game, I was playing the position I played in high school and all that, no problem. And I was like surrounded by current players, but it was very odd because, number one, I was very slow, right? You ever had those dreams? I think we all have, where, for one reason or another, like everything is moving around you at this normal pace, but you're stuck, so that was very frustrating. I was trying to participate and trying to make plays. And again, from the beginning of the dream, I was actually, I basically jumped into this dream with a game already being played. So it's not like I warmed up for this one. I was just kind of like, it was almost like my basketball warm-up got me ready for becoming a professional athlete. So game is playing, and first thing I notice is that I'm moving very slowly. No one's really saying anything, so it's almost like they know I'm just moving that slow. It's, the ball comes to my feet. I very weakly kind of get rid of it, so I don't ruin it for my team, but, again, I'm not able to play at the level that is suitable, let's say. for that, intensity, that level of play. The other thing I noticed was the field itself was, no kidding, like triple the size it should have been, both length and width. So imagine a standard field that you play soccer on, and it just felt like the goalpost, the distance between them was, it honestly felt like 500 yards. It was like this unbelievable distance. And same thing with the width, to the point that at one point I kind of lose sight of some teammates. So, when my team had possession of the ball, we would be moving so far up the pitch and so far, wide, that literally I couldn't see them. And I could barely see my fellow. I was a defender. I was a center back in high school. Well, middle school as well. So, I was mainly a center back just because I was very slow. I think I read the game okay, but, I wasn't placed there because of my wonderful ability to read the play unfolding in front of me. It's that technically I wasn't good enough to be a midfielder or forward. I certainly didn't have the pace. I didn't have the speed. I didn't have the dribbling ability. So, I went to a very small school, and so just by me being kind of like eager to want to play, I was given an opportunity to learn and grow. But, I was, when it came to that, and to be fair, soccer or football was a sport that I came very, very late into. I didn't really start playing it until I was maybe 15. I wonder if you thought that you'd be listening to me ramble about my high school athleticism, my high school athletic feats and positions, and why I played certain positions in high school to fall asleep. I'm sure that 16-year-old me wouldn't imagine this as a possibility, helping people fall asleep by talking to them about my high school soccer days. So anyway, that second dream lasted a very short amount of time. The third dream, it starts to get kind of convoluted, kind of starts to get difficult to remember. But I remember I was almost it was like I was at a mall, but I've never been to this place, but it was a mall. And what stuck out to me was, I was like on the second floor of a mall, very long mall, and there was a shoe store. Not one that we would know, just a random shoe store. And a friend of mine was inside the store, so then I kind of get teleported to outside the store and I'm by myself, and I go in the store. And I remember my friend saying like, "Oh, these are cool shoes." I remember thinking, "No, those are weird." He had picked up a pair of shoes that had, first off, they were just way too large. They looked like they were size like 28 shoes, like just monstrosity of shoes. And they had like big spikes on them. So I said, "This isn't even practical." He says, "What? These are amazing." I remember like he repeated it multiple times in my dream, like, "These are amazing." Interestingly, my friend is not, his fashion sense is not that out there. So I'm not clear. It's unclear to me why I would associate him apparently with picking up a pair of really fashionably forward shoes and telling me how cool they are. Mind you, I've never gone to the mall with his friend ever. We've known each other for many years, but I've never gone to the mall with him for the purpose of shopping. We've gone like in groups of people to, obviously eat lunch, eat dinner, go to the movies. But again, it was odd to me that at this point in the dream, I'm in a mall that I've never been at. And then he's seeking almost like the approval for me to buy these weird shoes. And I remember that they had like orange laces, and then like little tips of them were black. So I thought that part was kind of cool, but the shoes themselves almost were like a speckly, like a metal color with like spikes. Like they look like something. They look like shoes from what people in the 1970s thought that the future of shoes would look like. And then they were just added features about the shoes that made them totally unwearable. The spikes, the size of them, whatever. So that third dream lasted a bit of time in just sort of nothingness. You know, it was this like repetitive exchange almost of these shoes. I think you showed me a couple other shoes, but whatever. And much like the other two dreams so far in this story, or in these stories, or in this ramble maybe, I didn't see the conclusion, so I don't know if my friend bought the shoes. I should probably send him a message later. Let him know. It's always strange to me when you have dreams that kind of like bring in groups of people or people in scenarios that you've never been in with them. Like this one. I mean, again, why is my friend apparently asking me to help him shop for shoes? He's never going to do that. I had a dream not too long ago about a dinner party that I attended, and the dinner party was like an ex-girlfriend, a friend from high school, 3 people that I legitimately have no idea who they were, and a family member of mine, and we were all having dinner, eating like ravioli or something. But in the context of the dream, it was as if, yeah, of course, this makes sense. Of course, everyone has dinner at some point or another with their ex-girlfriend, 2 friends from high school that were part of 2 separate groups, and then 3 total strangers, and we were all just, laughing it up as, just weird kind of stuff. I had a conversation with, I'm going to say like a friend I've made relatively recently, recently being, post high school and post college, which is very challenging actually. I think it depends on your city, but I've come to realize the older I get, basically if you're not, if you don't work in an environment with people really your age, which I don't for the most part, it's pretty challenging actually, at least in the city I'm in, to make friends. But I've been fortunate to have met some pretty cool people over the last couple of years as an adult. But I was mentioning to him how my high school situation again was a little different. I went to a very small school and the whole thing, but this friend I made, he says, oh, I really don't talk to anyone from high school at this point. And I thought, oh, it's kind of weird to me. And then I had this conversation with someone else, and she's also saying, I really don't talk to people from high school either. I say, well, whatever happened, I asked, this friend of mine, the second one, and she says, well, it's pretty simple. I just kind of like lost touch. We lost touch. We didn't really follow up with each other. We didn't really, communicate with each other past high school. And this kind of like started a debate where it was like my side of the story, or my kind of argument was, well, but like people you went to high school with, you kind of have like a shared history with, right? You have a shared time in your life. I'm not talking about everyone you went to high school with, but like your good friends from high school, I find it odd when people don't kind of like follow up with each other. And again, it doesn't have to be every day. It doesn't have to be, but she tells me I would find it very strange if some of my high school friends reached out to me now at our age. Again, I mean, it's not like 30 years have gone by since high school. And I had the opposite opinion, which was, oh, that wouldn't be strange to me at all. It would be very welcomed, actually. And it's happened from time to time where, let's say my best friends from high school, I'm still close with. And I'm sure maybe most people are to some degree, unless there was some reason for a major fallout. But even when it comes to like fringe friends, and a fringe friend for me is someone that maybe you don't consider to be one of your best friends, but someone that maybe for a couple of years was a like fringe friend, let's say, or I mean, now I'm repeating myself, but okay, well, for example, I'll tie it back to sports, right? I mean, someone that I played basketball with for 4 years from the time I was a freshman, and we were on the same team, and we would go to some parties together, and we were very friendly with, on the court, off the court. That for me is not strange for that person if they see me post something on my social media, for them to reach out and be like, hey, how's it going? Or, I don't live in the city that I went to high school in. So I wouldn't find it strange at all if someone I went to school with that, again, I had some kind of relationship with, reaches out to me and says, hey, I'm actually going to be visiting your city, in a few weeks or in a couple months. Let's hang out. That to me isn't weird. But then she was making the argument that it would be strange because that's someone that she hasn't been in touch with for years. So I could kind of start to understand her point. But I just thought, I don't know, like, these are people that, again, maybe you're not close with now, but you had some kind of relationship with to some degree. I think it's really beautiful. I think it's beautiful that you have certain people that are kind of like representative of a certain part of your life or a certain aspect of your life that, maybe you no longer have that shared purpose for spending time together, but to say it's strange for me to reach out or vice versa, I thought was, I'm going to say, like a bit harsh almost. But I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it's strange? Do you think it makes sense? Curious to know what you think there. So I think I'll talk about my fourth dream from last night very briefly and then call it an episode. My fifth dream I don't remember at all, and I'm thinking there was a sixth dream in there, but something I don't remember. My fourth dream is definitely a little bit spotty, but the premise is another very strange one, a random one. It's not strange. My last dream from last night, I recall, again, vaguely. I was on a flight, and what I remember very clearly from this dream was I was in the middle seat. And there was someone on the aisle. Yeah, there was someone sitting in the aisle, but then by the window there was no one there. And as I started to move over to try and sit by the window, it was almost like something pushed me back to the middle. And I kind of look left, and then I look right to the window, and now there's someone there. So it was almost like an invisible force, like an invisible person was sitting next to me. And I remember trying to ask the person there, like, how long have you been here? And the guy looks at me and he says, oh, I've been here from the beginning. What do you mean? I said, no, that seat was empty 5 seconds ago. And he very adamantly says, no, I've been here the whole time. So then I turn to the person in the aisle and I ask him, has this guy been here the entire flight? And the guy says, what guy? And then he turns around. I mean, the guy's there, but I'm saying this guy. So it was really like a very odd dream again, right? Invisible people and flights, and I don't know. I'm actually very curious to know, and hopefully you guys, hopefully you can email me if you have very random dreams such as these, because for me this is a very common occurrence where I have dreams that are like this. They're just so nonsensical. They are so seemingly pointless and so strange. You know, high school tournament, invisible people on planes, dinners with people that, in the context of the dream, apparently we're all very close and we all know each other. But then, you know, in real life we're not. So, very, very curious to know that. But I think that's it. I think that's where I'm going to leave this episode. I hope that maybe by now you're very relaxed, perhaps asleep, which would be even better. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can always reach me at hello@sleepandrelaxasmr.com. That's all for this episode. Thanks as always for listening, and take care.